Like, it's gone. That's
It's
awesome.
like relieving. It's like taking your bra off after a long day.
This is Emergency Intercom. Drew and Enya talk fast. They interrupt each other. They spiral into bits with no setup and no conclusion. 1 minute they're ranting about feeder kinks. The next they're screaming about brain-eating amoebas or fighting their producer off screen. It's absurd.
Amazeballs.
It's stupid.
Awesome sauce.
It's also deeply
awesome
funny.
sauce.
Rafflecopter.
You make really awesome sauce.
They don't moralize, they don't teach, they perform the ridiculousness of being chronically online, of being close to someone, thinking something halfway through, and saying it out loud anyway. That's what makes them so watchable. For a certain kind of listener, especially those addicted to their phones, Emergency Intercom isn't just funny. It's familiar. It's how we think, how we talk, how we survive the absurdity of our lives. I've followed the show for years.
Peg
Could you
leg?
imagine just fucking pegging someone with your leg and just like your ass with your...
Watched their vines way before that. But on one upload, the tone their entire show is built on was suddenly treated like a threat. Drew, smiling, said,
Oh yeah, Greta Thunberg fell off. Bitches in the gutter. Her legacy being lesbian, and I shouldn't be up here. Is
The thing is,
so perfectly what's wrong with everything in this world, because like she literally was that girl. She was like fighting
Enya followed.
for
the thing,
climate
her
change.
saying she shouldn't be up there, like, you're right. You should be in school, and your parents kind of suck for not letting you just go to school and be
shouldn't
fucking
be up here.
normal. Like, go to school, be normal, and then you can like. But poor girl, she was fighting for a cause that she felt so strong for.
I think
but
she's
like,
still fighting for it, but in like 20 years she'll probably
fighting
be
where?
president.
Because I don't see her.
From there, they spiraled. Everything from martyrdom, to Malala, to skipping class, to net spend. 10 minutes later, they were talking about roaches. It was unserious, off the cuff, their usual rhythm. And yet, it hit like a scandal. Thousands of comments poured in. Disgust, betrayal, lazy, tone deaf, out of touch. All of it. The backlash, the disappointment, the outrage, boiled over because two podcasters made a joke, if you could even call it that, about a climate activist. So, what happened? It wasn't a take. It wasn't even coherent. But that didn't matter. To many, it became something bigger. A test. A referendum. A signal of who Drew and Enya really are, and whether they were still the good ones. Because something in the culture has shifted. We now treat all public speech, even brain rot, as if it's meant to be interpreted morally. We don't read tone. We flatten it. And in that collapse, we lose more than nuance. We lose contradiction, chaos, banter. Drew and Enya aren't role models.
I mean, I have a lot now. Oh my.
They're not trying to be. But in a world where everything sounds like a statement, absurdity becomes dangerous. Not because it means something, but because it might. This isn't about excusing them. I mean, this happened a while ago. It's about what happens when absurdity gets mistaken for ideology, and how often that happens now. Because this isn't rare. It's everywhere. Maybe the joke didn't actually fail. Maybe it told a kind of truth we don't know how to hear anymore. Emergency Intercom doesn't follow a plan. It just kind of goes. But there's a flow to it. The kind you only get from two people who've been bouncing off each other for years.
Let her cook.
Those are so
What?
good.
Let her cook.
That's like weird. Why does it have to be her? Like, why does she have to cook?
Not every woman knows how to cook, Kai, and not every woman belongs in
No,
the
this
kitchen
is-
like
I know,
you were
it's
just
so
saying.
weird
That's
that
a thing
you're
that people
saying
say on TikTok. Let him
He
cook.
literally just basically said, "Go make me a sandwich."
No, I
That's what
didn't.
it felt like.
Cool
That's
story,
exact-
bro. Go make me a sandwich.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't. I was reciting a meme, and now you guys are
What
twisting
is
the
a
narrative.
fucking meme?
Yeah,
I need a control over the narrative.
Drew and Enya talk about gooning, the popular Christian app Grindr, and wanting to die. They spiral, they lie, they repeat the same stories and act like they have never heard it before.
And then they asked to triple the rate. And, get the fuck off of me!
It's easy to feel like you know them, not the internet version. Them. The two friends behind the mics. When you hear two people talk this much, with this little pretense, something odd happens. You start to believe the connection is mutual, that you're part of the bit, that the noise means something, that this isn't just funny, it's familiar. And not just familiar, honest. They care about each other more than they let on. They once said if the world was ending and they could only find one person, they'd look for each other first.
You.
Me?
100% you.
I think it would be you too. When I thought of it, it was you first. And then I was like, that's a hard question though, because like it would depend on how I'm feeling.
Underneath all the yelling and chaos, there's a softness, a deep sense of care between them
Best was not good enough.
It's a no from me.
that care spills out. Enya's cried on the show, talked about feeling stuck. They've both said how much the podcast and the people listening have kept them going. How weird life feels, especially for them. How grateful they are for it. None of it is planned. It just happens, the way real things do.
I love you.
Preach. Me and my boy toy. This is my boy toy.
That kind of closeness, the mess, the honesty, the tenderness. It all makes you feel like you're in on it. Like maybe you're not just listening to a show. Maybe you're part of something. That's the Parasocial Pact. And Emergency Intercom is really good at cultivating it. The show is loose, unserious, and weirdly safe. Safe in the way only certain funny people are. You trust them not because they say the right thing, but because they feel real. So when that feeling snaps, when a rant doesn't bend back into something agreeable, it doesn't just feel like a bit that missed. It feels like something broke. Not because of what they said, but because the usual trust slipped. Or at least some felt it did. What changed wasn't them. It was how closely people were listening. The Greta bit didn't cause the shift. It just gave it shape. For longtime fans, it wasn't rage bait. It felt like watching a joke from someone you love fall flat. Not enough to cancel them, or maybe, yeah, I guess cancel them, but either way, something shifted. The ridiculousness they usually go on about stopped feeling familiar to some. The same kind of bit suddenly felt too sharp, too real. Because irreverence, once the default, now reads like a stance. Not just a tone, but a test. We want our creators to be raw, loose, funny, but also safe, thoughtful, the good ones. And that's not a balance anyone can hold forever. And yeah, sometimes a bit really is just bad. Sometimes it does land wrong. But the point isn't to excuse everything. It's to ask if we still know the difference between a failure and a threat. When the line gets blurry, we don't just lose interest, we moralize. The Greta backlash wasn't just about what was said, it was about whether Drew and Enya were still safe to like, whether they were still the kind of funny people we trust, whether being unserious is even allowed anymore without turning it into a statement. That's the contradiction. We want our creators to feel like our friends, but expect them to act like role models. And if Drew and Enya seem like they're rambling more than explaining, maybe that's kind of the point. This isn't new. They've always joked, and joked hard, about death,
And you should kill yourself.
Oh.
9/11,
Honestly, I hope that your fucking studio burns to the ground.
Me too.
while
I
you're
would
in it.
I would literally build a new one.
That's fucked up because it's in the new World Trade Center.
sleeping with each other's moms.
Girl.
Because I'm having sex with my mom and your mom. Actually, I'm gonna have your mom.
How is that urn?
That would make
how
more
is that
sense.
urn gonna walk down?
Out of context, it sounds insane, but it's never meant to be taken seriously. That's the show. It's not news, not a panel, not a debate. It's just two friends. So when people got mad about Greta, it felt selective. They've said worse. I personally didn't think twice about it. But for some, it did feel bad. The bit didn't land. It just sat there. And when something sits like that, people don't scroll. They pause. They pick it apart. Not because they think it's evil, but maybe. And once that doubt creeps in, everything starts to read differently. Because when the energy slips, we go looking for meaning. And online, the second that happens, everything flattens. A bit turns into a stance. A line becomes a take. And suddenly, it's not just noise. It's a problem. We live in a time where tone doesn't survive impact. You can joke, rant, spiral, or parody. I mean, we all do it. But once it hits the internet, it lands as something else entirely. A take, a stance, a belief. One soundbite becomes a collapse of respect. This isn't a glitch. It's the default. Online, we don't read for intention. We read for harm more often than not. We don't watch for tone. We scan for offense. The layers that used to separate irony from cruelty, sincerity from satire, performance from position, well, those have entirely collapsed. The result is interpretive chaos, where everything means too much and too little all at once. That's why the emergency intercom moment hit so hard. Not because it was mean or shocking, but because people didn't know what to make of it. There was no point, just banter. So the audience filled in the blanks. They decided what it meant, then got upset at that version. And they weren't wrong to feel weird. It's human to interpret through your own lens. But it wasn't a shift in tone from the show. It was the same chaos Drew and Enya have always created. What changed was the reaction. The bit stuck out. That's the thing about meaning. Once something slips, we go hunting for it. We want clarity. But the messier the world gets, the harder that is to find. So we project. We assign intention where there may not have been any. Nowhere is that clearer than online. There's a deep lore to the internet right now. Everything is layered, recycled, inverted. A meme starts earnest, gets mocked, and then loops back into sincerity. Irony stacks on irony until meaning disappears. Or maybe meaning was never the point. That logic obviously bleeds out. It changes how we talk, flirt, grieve. We post memes to process death. Quote sound bites instead of explaining ourselves, turn apologies into punchlines. Sincerity feels dead. It's not that we don't care. It's that we've adapted to emotional overload. Meaning is scrambled. Nothing lands. That's what really sets people off. Not the joke, the confusion. That feeling that no one's joking, but no one's being serious either. All of this happened while I was deep in a Nietzsche kick. I don't know, I had the books and my screen time was embarrassing. Anyway, this connects. Stay with me. Nietzsche didn't believe in fixed truth or righteous morality. He thought most people lie to themselves just to feel good. Meaning to him wasn't found, it was chosen. He thought the world was already absurd. And the only real freedom comes from owning that. The moment you ask what a joke means, or what chaos is, or what truth even looks like, you're speaking Nietzsche's language. Long before the internet cracked everything open, and long before Greta got dragged into a bit between two very straight podcasters, Nietzsche spoke about what happens when we lose the ability to hold contradiction. He called it resentment. When people feel powerless, they cling to moral clarity. And when chaos threatens that clarity, they lash out. What Drew and Enya ran into wasn't backlash. It was a power inversion. The intimacy that made fans feel close also gave them control. And that control demands legibility, safety. Values you can name. Nietzsche hated binaries. Good, bad, righteous, shameful. He believed truth wasn't always stated. Sometimes it was performed. And that performance of contradiction, of absurdity, of spiraling, might be a truer kind of meaning. One that resists summary. That's what emergency intercom does at its best.
Oh my god, you're like fading away.
I'm just gonna fuck with them.
Oh my god. I know, sometimes it's like scary, like you're weird.
There's like an energy coming from the camera.
Yeah, sometimes it's like we're talking and then it's like, oh, you're here.
It doesn't teach, it spirals. It contradicts itself.
I hate cheap ass toilet paper. I just fingered my asshole.
It makes you laugh, then wince, then laugh again.
Extra goat. Can I have a side of goat with my sauce? No, can I have a side of sauce with my goat?
No.
That chaos isn't random. It's a method. Not always intentional, but very real. And it's not new. Nietzsche called it the role of the jester. Not the one who preaches truth, but the one who performs the ridiculousness around it. The jester doesn't explain. He reenacts the world until it collapses under its own logic. Talks casually, constantly. Says what you're not supposed to say. Laughs when you're not supposed to laugh. Plays dumb, loud, cruel, sometimes all at once, and in doing so makes the culture visible. That's the point. He doesn't offer clarity. He offers a mirror. One so warped it becomes accurate. You laugh, then second guess yourself. And by the end, you're not sure if it was just a joke or something way too real. Usually, it's both. Drew and Enya don't tell you how the world works. They become the noise. They exaggerate it, mumble through it, talk about rose toys and the curse of being pretty.
I want to be pretty. Like, that's like one of my main goals in life is to look good no matter what I'm doing.
Being pretty is a curse because you're hated by the ugly people and you're hated by men. You get slut shamed.
About fist fights at Chuck E. Cheese, Squid Game, and taxes.
That needed to actually be talked about.
Yeah, because like the lengths in which someone will go for money and like how they'll just like turn their back on
I
humanity.
can't believe that happened in real life. Like,
I know.
No one is talking
see,
about
that's one of my problems is like school doesn't teach you like important things like how to do your taxes and Squid Games.
And somehow through all of that, you get a glimpse of the world behind it. Not through clarity, but through something raw. So no, they weren't making a point about Greta. That's the point. There was no point. It was a riff, a bit. The kind of thing you forget about 5 minutes after you say it with a friend. But online, nothing gets forgotten. It gets clipped, moralized. A one-off joke becomes a position. Not because it means something, but because people said it did. And if even that kind of nonsense can't survive, what happens to absurdity? What happens to satire, irony, contradiction? What happens to truth when it doesn't come pre-labeled? What happens to the jester when everyone's looking for a profit? That's where we are. Not just Drew and Enya, all of us, living in a culture that treats every word like evidence, every joke like ideology, every moment like a trial. The question isn't whether Drew and Enya were right or wrong, it's whether there's still space for irreverence without it being rewritten, moralized, or erased. And if there isn't, then the bit didn't fail. It hit something raw, something real, something the internet couldn't metabolize. Because in a culture that can't read tone, absurdity becomes dangerous. Absurdity doesn't show up when things break. It creeps in when nothing feels stable anymore. When what's supposed to make sense just doesn't. We used to laugh it off. Now we live fully in it. In a world where someone fakes a terminal illness for GoFundMe donations. Where brain-dead men on mics tag team their female guest like a debate prop. Where people post genocide infographics between thirst traps. Where a protest can start on TikTok and end with a can of soup on the Mona Lisa. The absurd isn't fringe. It's the default. So when Drew said Greta Thunberg fell off and Enya piled on, it wasn't deep, but it also wasn't entirely wrong. Greta has been sidelined. In 2019, she was everywhere.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean.
Millions watching. Headlines weekly. Now, not so much. And even saying that feels risky here, like flattening her into a symbol. But that's the bind. Talking about her at all feels symbolic. Anyway, the numbers don't lie. Google interest is down 95%. News coverage nearly 98%. Not because she stopped, but because she didn't. She didn't sell out. She didn't soften. She kept going. On the climate, against capitalism, against genocide. And that stopped playing well on sponsored timelines. Her work is still remarkable. Her voice is still urgent. But in the media economy she's been pushed into, consistency doesn't keep you trending. Outrage does. Novelty does. Memes do, for better or for worse. So yes, their banter was flippant. It hit a nerve, but it also accidentally told the truth. Because that's the thing about absurdism. It doesn't arrive with a message, it crashes into one. It reveals what we don't want to see by refusing the rules. That's where the meaning is. The whiplash is the point. Drew and Enya say the quiet part out loud, then bury it in a bit.
Yeah, it might be because every day we wake up to like ingesting actually the worst, most like chat GBT kind of news. Like it literally feels like somebody's like, what's something that could happen tomorrow that
Would
shouldn't
shift
happen?
the fabric of society, and we'll do it every day.
Not to dodge, not to teach.
Why are you laughing?
Cause she fucking bodied you, dude.
Kai.
But because they are human, messy, incoherent, real. Absurdity lets you hold contradiction without resolving it. It shows how culture breaks, not from malice, but from incoherence, and in doing so makes you feel a little less insane for noticing how insane everything else is. And that's why it lands. Because most of us live there too. In the mess, in the overload, in the absurdity the day throws at us next. This is the Jester's dilemma. To turn that mess into a performance without pretending it has any point. To move through contradiction without resolving it. The Jester isn't there to make sense. He's there to survive nonsense. And in doing so, show it back to us. Warped, exaggerated, more honest than anything. That's what Drew and Enya do, whether they mean to or not. And it's why their kind of batshit humor matters. Not everything has to land. Not everything needs to mean more than it does. Sometimes the most human thing is to say something fucking stupid, laugh too hard at it, and let it be. Because in a world turned to noise, maybe the last radical act is to mean nothing at all.
It's like we're saying nothing when we speak. Like that's it. And you either like get it, you either get it or you don't.
Or you don't.